On this note, ladies and gentlemen, I therefore declare rape and sexual violence as national emergency.
February 2019, a bold declaration by Sierra Leone's president. Words welcomed by hopeful millions as the West African nation struggled to control an explosion of violence against women and girls. But more than a year later, the tales of horrific cruelty continue. And a new crime is dominating the headlines: the rape and murder of 5-year-old Kadijah Saccoh. In just a few moments, we'll take you to the Sierra Leonean capital for the very latest on the police investigation. Plus, my heartbreaking interview with Kadijah's father, who's living here in the United States. As you'd expect, there are no words that could comfort him in his grief. But hear why he believes the death of his beautiful daughter will be the spark for much-needed change in the country. All that, plus much more, in this Justice for Kadijah special. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, it's Wednesday, and if you have ever watched a show before, you know that this is the day where we normally bring on an expert and we focus on their expertise in one particular subject or issue. That is not what we're doing today. Today we're doing something quite different. Today we are focusing on the story of Kadijah Saccoh. She's the 5-year-old child who was raped and murdered in Sierra Leone just a few days ago. According to her father, who I spoke to a short time ago, and you will hear that interview, it's just ahead, Kadijah was an outgoing, funny, smart little girl who had dreams of becoming a doctor. Dreams that will never come true, as her life was brutally cut short. Her death has sparked outrage online, and it has taken people to the streets there in Sierra Leone, and it has also launched the hashtag Justice for Kadijah. It is trending on social media. So far, 2 individuals are in custody and a police investigation is ongoing, but we want to get the very latest on that investigation and how all of this is playing out in Freetown. Let's go to the capital and bring in Umaru Fofana. He's a journalist and he joins us now. Umaru has been on the show many times. Umaru, welcome back. Let me start by asking you to just bring us up to speed on the latest with this investigation into the rape and murder of 5-year-old Kadijah Saccoh.
Hi, Aisha. Well, the police say they have arrested 4 people, including the late Kadijah's aunt and her cousin. That's the son of the aunt. So they say that they have received the medical report from the Rainbow Center. That's a center here that looks after violated girls, but also they look after women who've had some violent attacks, sexual violence, and all of that. So they have submitted that report to the police, and the police said they will waste no time. Tomorrow, the head of prosecution, that's the DPP, will be looking into the files and to advise as to what the next step should be. So far, the police say they are on top of their investigations, and they will soon press charges against those they believe had a hand in the defilement and the eventual murder of Kadijah.
So I want to be clear, prior to coming on air, my understanding was 2 people were in custody. You've now learned that there are 4 people who are being held.
The deputy head of the Sierra Leone Police, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Toure, told me that 4 people were in custody.
Now, you mentioned the aunt of Kadijah and Kadijah's cousin. Do we know who the other 2 are?
No, I'm not sure who the other 2 are. They said 4 people, but then they were very specific that her aunt and her cousin are amongst the 4 who are currently being detained.
For people who don't know the ins and outs of the story, they may be confused to hear that we're mentioning an aunt and a cousin who are in custody. Can you just help us understand Kadijah's living situation prior to this violent attack? What do we know about her home life?
Well, the 5-year-old was living with her paternal aunts because obviously the parents had a very serious custody battle when their relationship became estranged. So initially, the father's sister was looking after Kadijah, but later the mother asked that she be given access to the girl so she could bring her up. But then she was living here and the father was living in the US. Eventually, the mother left for the United Kingdom and she transferred custody of Kadijah to her own sister. So she moved from her paternal aunt to her maternal aunt. The maternal aunt has been the one who was looking after her up to when this situation happened. So the mother is in the UK, the father is in the US. The father came back and arranged papers, and Kadijah was given United States citizenship and with a US passport. So plans were afoot for her to be taken to the US or to the UK. But that's obviously is never going to happen. She was living with her aunt, and it is alleged that one of those, the person who violated her was in fact the cousin, that's the aunt's own son. We are yet not clear as to the circumstances, and these are only allegations at this moment.
What's been the reaction there?
It's been, there has been an outpouring of outrage here, Aisha. I'm not sure I've seen any outrage like this since a young woman was also violated and murdered. Her name is Abubakarr. That was about 6 or 7 years ago. She was also raped and brutally killed, and her body dumped on the beach of Lumley, an otherwise very pristine beach. That's where her body was dumped. And I haven't seen any such outrage since that time. The reason this, in fact, is probably a lot more than in the case of that lady is the fact that she is young. She's just a 5-year-old. So that has brought out the real outrage in people, women, particularly children, young people, young teenagers poured out on the streets yesterday protesting. They were joined by hundreds of women, and they said that they wanted justice for Kadijah. They said that they had doubts, they had ifs and buts about the police's ability or willingness to prosecute rape cases, but the police have assured that they will leave no stone unturned in trying to get at the bottom of this case. The outrage has been really shocking. Somebody even said that it is akin to the awakening of the call for racial justice in the US and in the world, which was sparked off by George Floyd's murder. And they say that this is akin to the call now for justice, especially for rape cases, not least for the rape of minors, which is not uncommon here, unfortunately. Lots of minors have been defiled in Sierra Leone in the last few years. It's not clear why. Some say it's because there is now more attention to the fight against rape, which is why there are more people coming forward now to report cases. And others are saying it's because rape culture itself has become more and more pervasive. Whatever the case, the reality remains that every single day, and this has been confirmed by both activists and caregivers, every single day there are reports of women being raped, amongst them a whole lot of children.
It's so incredibly distressing. We played for our viewers right at the top of the show a short clip of Sierra Leone's president Madabio declaring a national emergency in relation to rape and violence against women. That was done last year, February 2019. What came of that emergency? As people call for justice for little Kadijah and every other child and woman that's violated, what does justice look like in Sierra Leone? Because people I speak to, and when I look at the data, less than 3% of cases lead to convictions.
Yeah, absolutely. After that declaration by the president, which had actually been preceded by his wife launching the Hands Off Our Girls campaign, for which she was joined by some other first ladies from the West Africa sub-region. It led to that, the declaration of state of emergency on generally sexual violence, but particularly the rape of women. Then the Sexual Offences Act was toughened. Now it carries at least 15 years in prison, and anybody who rapes a minor goes to jail for life. Now, the complaint has been that the police say that victims' families come forward reluctantly, and in the end, they compromise the cases. leaving the police with no evidence to charge these cases to court. The other thing is also that this country has no forensic laboratory. And they say that without a forensic laboratory, it will be very difficult to secure convictions in court. So there is call now for a forensic laboratory to be set up in Sierra Leone to be able to provide the badly needed evidence that is required to be able to convict rapists in Sierra Leone. Otherwise, they argue that the whole thing gets lost in, bogged down basically in legal battle in terms of trying to prove or disprove whether a person was the rapist or not. It is clear to establish that a girl has been raped, but the difficulty is to link that rape to the accused. So they say that until that happens, it's going to be very difficult. And it's happening every day, Aisha. Interestingly, Kadijah's sister of the same mom and dad has also been confirmed to have been defiled. She is 8 years old. She is still alive. And I understand that both reports have not been submitted to the police, and they will eventually charge for both rape, both cases.
It's just truly horrific. As you lay out the issues regarding policing and the lack of a forensic lab, I have to ask you, in light of the outpouring and outrage generated by what happened to Kadijah, what is the government saying?
President Julius Maada Bio held a press conference yesterday. It was on the COVID situation. But his opening remarks, he used some very strong language in describing what he referred to as a despicable act of the rape and murder of this girl. He sounded and looked very angry as he condemned the rape. And now the public feeling here is with the president in terms of his emotions, but there are calls now that we should go beyond the expression of emotions. There should be tough action. Whatever is required to be able to prosecute rapists must be provided. And everybody here is saying that this country must do everything and anything it can to ensure that this country gets a forensic lab to be able to prosecute and convict rapists. So the word now is action, action, and action.
Omar Fofana joining us there from Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone, with the very latest on the investigation into the rape and murder of 5-year-old Kadijah Saccoh. Omar, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Aisha.
Words fail me and comprehend the scale of the abuse that is playing out in Sierra Leone, the country that I grew up in, my home, the home of my parents. You heard Omar Fofana say that and confirm that not only was 5-year-old Kadijah Saccoh raped and murdered, but that her sister, her 8-year-old sister, was also violated. One family dealing with the loss of one child and also comforting another child who was also violated. 4 people in custody right now in relation to Kadijah's death and violation. All we know, as you heard from Omar there, is that 2 of the 4 have been identified. Her aunt, who had been granted custody, guardianship of Kadijah. Kadijah was living with this woman, and the aunt's son, Kadijah's cousin, who has widely been identified as the alleged suspect in this horrific crime. I wish I could tell you that Kadijah's story is unique. You heard there from Omar himself that sadly it isn't, that the rapes and the violation of women and girls in Sierra Leone is all too common. And Kadijah's father is hoping that this tragedy that has befallen his family will be the spark for some much needed change. I spoke to Kadijah's father a short time ago, and he is grieving as you would expect him to be, but he's also resolute in his belief that this must be a turning point for the nation. Listen now to my conversation with Kadijah's father, Abubakarr, commonly referred to as Congolese, Abubakarr Congolese Saccoh. He spoke to me from Wilmington, Delaware. Congolese Saccoh, welcome to the program. I want to start by saying how deeply, deeply sorry I am for your loss. You are speaking to us from Delaware. Your daughter Kadijah was in Freetown, Sierra Leone, when she was assaulted. First of all, just for our viewers' understanding, can you explain to me why you were not together, why she was in Freetown and you're here in the United States?
My daughter was staying with my sister. So Kadijah was about 1 year old when I leave Africa. She was a very, very, very smart girl. Growing fast, developing fast. And she was born in a very hard time in Sierra Leone when we have Ebola outbreak. And the area where we used to live in Freetown, we had a lot of people there that was infected with Ebola. So Kadijah was born the last night lockdown of the Ebola. She was very sweet, very, very sweet. Grew very fast. The entire neighborhood where we live, everybody loved Kadijah. Everybody. People used to come and pick her up. I want to pick this girl up. She looked like a baby. Everybody in the neighborhood knew Kadijah. By the time she turned 9 months, she was so popular in the neighborhood. I remember one time when the former president, Dr. Anes Bai Koroma, was driving by in my neighborhood. It was a very close, the street was very, very narrow, so you can't miss nobody. And he saw Kadijah. I had Kadijah in my hand, and he pulled his hand out and shook Kadijah's hand. So, and then I came home, I was screaming. I said, the president shook her hand. She's only 9 months old. I said, oh, man, I have a wonderful baby here.
And so you had this wonderful baby, and you made the decision to head back to the States later on, and she stayed with your sister.
Yes.
So how long did she live with your sister?
She lived with my sister almost 3 years. So my sister was at the age of about a year, 6 months, 7 months. My sister called me in the state and told me that, I want to put Kadijah to school. I said, she's too young. I said, wait. She was like, you can't believe what this girl can do. She can talk. She can use the bathroom. She can do everything. She needs to go to school. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and send money so you can get her in school. And my sister registered Kadijah in school, and she took the test. The people were surprised at the school. She passed. It was like, wow, she was way ahead of our peers.
And to be clear, by this stage, when she was with your sister, you'd separated from her mother.
Yes. Yes.
So you separated from her mother. She was with her sister, but at the time of her death, she was living with her mother's sister.
That's correct. All right. Let me come back. The reason why she went and live with her mother's sister. My sister's husband, at the time she was with my sister got married, and her husband was residing in the United States. So he was doing her paperwork to get his wife over here. And when the process went through, and my sister called me, said the process went through, I have my paper. Can you come and get your daughter? And I told my sister, I said, you know what? I said, all right, I'm coming. So we all know how expensive it is to go to Africa, So I went there to the immigration, and she's a very lucky lady. Usually when you go there, they look at you, they request a DNA, but they look at Kadijah, and the consul look at Kadijah like, oh, she's so beautiful. And the process was so fast, it was unbelievable. In less than 2 weeks, I left, I paid for the process, get the process started, and then I came back to the United States. And 2 weeks later, I told her mother, because when you do it, a mother have to present there. So I called her mother 2 weeks later. I said, what's going on? Did you get Kadijah papers? She was like, yeah. I said, all right. So I went back to Africa and get the paperwork, get some other preparation for her, and came back to the United States and applied for a passport. So I got the passport and then went back to Africa to bring Kadijah. It was resistance from my mother. My mother said, Kadijah is not going nowhere. And I called family member and talked to them. She was like, she's not going nowhere. So I said, all right, I'm going to let you, think about it. Because I really don't think you want to mess this little girl opportunity. If she's not with you, she have to be with her father.
And to be clear for our viewers to understand, Kadijah's mother actually lives in England, right? So she wasn't with Kadijah when this happened. Kadijah was living with her sister and her mother was in England, and you were here in the United States, correct?
The second time I went for Kadijah, she was still living in Africa. Her mother had already get married. She was doing her paperwork to go to England. You understand? So when I went back to Africa for Kadijah, her mother refused. Kadijah is not coming. So I took her mother to social welfare. So I went filed a complaint, said, I want to take this little girl to, United States. I don't think she belongs in Africa. The medical condition was very poor. And I told the people, I said, if this little girl stay here, she will die. And
you
it was
said
like,
that. You said that. You said if she stays here, she will die.
Yes, I said she will die. And the people was like, you're not God. Why you said that? I said, life is very hard. She is very beautiful. And people want to touch her. I said, and that's very dangerous for her. That's
so you were afraid for her even when she was younger. I mean, yes. She was only 5 when this horrible tragedy happened. But you've been concerned about her long before this tragic episode.
Yes. And we talked to the caseworker, and they talked to her mom. Her mom refused, and we went to the director that was there at the station, Lumley Police Station. We went there and talked to the director that's responsible for social welfare. And the director looked at the mom. He said, look, I'm a grown man here. I have a job. I have an office. If they told me right now, get up, leave everything, here you go, green card, go to the United States, I'm going to go. I'm not going to stay. So please make up your mind. But the age of Kadijah, she was young. So her mother still live in Africa. So the caseworker was like, it's nothing we can do. She's not in an arm. So our mother here, you understand, and our mother can make a decision for her. I was like, that's fine.
So when was the last time you tried to bring Kadijah to the United States, and how old was she?
All right, about 6 months ago.
Okay.
I went back to Africa. So at that time, our mother had already went to London, traveled to London. So I went back to Africa and, my mother filed a petition. I think somebody told her mother that I was in Africa to get her daughter. You understand? And they filed a petition in court. So the court, I was sitting there one time, somebody came and served me some court papers that you got to go to court. I was like, for what? They said for custody. I said, for who? For your daughter. I was like, oh my goodness. And I talked to friends, family members. I said that she took me to court for my daughter and she's not even in the country. So how that's possible? And I said, they'd be like, oh, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. This girl's life, I'm scared. I said, I'm scared. I said, I have to go to court. I have to go. I have to do it. So I went and get a lawyer, and we prepare all the documents that I needed, and I have my income tax. I have my pay stub with me, and she was, was like, everything is there. All the document that, I needed to prove my income, that I was able to take care of the little girl when I came back to the United States. Everything was just there. And we went to court. When we went to court, I told my lawyer that, I said, I want you to file a petition since the child lived with the mother's sister. I want my daughter to go live with my aunt, IJ Kabar. The reason why I said that, because IJ have a armed security guard in her house. So, and when my lawyer present the motion and, our lawyer objects. So the judge was like, we have to go through process, I'm not going to make decision. And then they rescheduled the date. So they said we have to come back. So I went back, and they adjourned the case, and then I have to change my ticket. That was like $250. And then for the third time, I went back, they adjourned the case, and I have to come back to the United States. I got to come back to work, and I have to come back to my other family, my kids, and I was like, you know what, I got to go, and I'll deal with this later. So I came back to the United States 3 months later. Coronavirus hit. I applied through the embassy in Sierra Leone, and they replied me back and told me when the flight's going to come back to the United States. And she was supposed to be here April the 10th.
So incredibly sorry for your loss.
She was
supposed to be here April 10th, but the mother didn't allow it.
Yeah, they never responded to me. They never responded. So
she missed that flight.
They never responded. I still got the paperwork. They never responded. So
So you made a plan that you thought to yourself, okay, she's not here April 10th, but when Corona is over, I'll go back and I'll pick up this fight again later on in the year to bring her back. So, Mr. Saccoh, take me back to last Wednesday when you found out something had happened to Kadijah.
No, last Wednesday, I went shopping for Kadijah and her sister at Burlington Coat Factory for school shoes. I went shopping. So I was able to buy some shoes for Kadijah's sister, IJ. So Kadijah, she grows so fast. So I said, you know what, let me call my aunt and see if she can tell me her size. Unfortunately, my phone was dead. So, my charger in my car was not working. So I was like, you know what, the next day, I think that was on Thursday. I said, I'm going to call my aunt, and then she'll probably give me an estimate size for Kadijah, and I'll go back and buy the shoes. And my aunt called me, screaming on the phone. I said, I cannot hear you. You know what happened? She keeps screaming. She keeps screaming. I was like, what's wrong? She said, Kadijah is dead. She said, Kadijah is dead. And I told her, I said, do you know today is my birthday? She was screaming, and she never paid attention to that. And I hung up the phone, and I was like, yesterday, my phone was dead. If they had called me yesterday, and today, my phone is working, and they was able to get me. And today's my birthday. I said, I think she's sending a message to me.
First of all, when your aunt called and said Kadijah had died, did she tell you the cause of death?
Nope. Nobody told me. I was, she was screaming so loud. Sorry if the phone's shaking. I'm kind of nervous right now.
So.
And she never told me. She was just screaming, Kadijah is gone, is gone. She's gone. She's screaming. I called my sister. I said, what happened with Kadijah? I spoke to Kadijah a few days ago. She was fine. They said she have problem. She was having some like a maggots coming out of her body. Like she'll get pus, and then she'll get an abscess, and pus will come out of there, and then it's some kind of bacteria, like a skin, eating bacteria, look like a maggot was coming out of her skin. And I was like, for real? I said, well, why they never told me that? She was like, oh, I thought, you probably already know. I said, I don't know. They never told me that. Why you never told me? Why you never sent me the pictures? And she was like, oh, I thought you already know. And she sent me the picture, and then I started counting the spot where the maggot was coming from. And I count, it was a lot of spot. And I said, this is something wrong. This is neglect. I said,
so you felt that there was something wrong once you saw those images?
Yes. And I said, it's something wrong. I said, I don't know. I don't think she died. She didn't die. They killed her. And I called my aunts, everybody, they got up prepared already to go bury her.
This was on the same day that they told you that she had died. They were already preparing to bury her.
Yes. So I was like, it's no way. They're not going to bury her. I said, she didn't die. Kill her. They was like, you crazy. She was sick. She had a cold. That's when I started hearing all this information. She had a cold.
Who was telling you this, that she was sick and she had a cold? Who was giving you this?
My aunt told me, they told her she had a cold. And then, friends, people in Freetown, when I called, they'd be like, oh, she had a cold. She was sick. She was dead. They gave me different statements. And I was like, she not dead. Somebody killed her. I said, that girl, if she died on my birthday, she don't want me to forget this for the rest of my life. I will always remember this. Never. I said, so if I go bury that girl, she's going to be mad at me. I'll be next. And I said, no way. So they threatened me. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Madingo. I'm an African. The century of family, since, generation. Nobody ever did this, and you are the first one that's gonna do this. It's a disgrace.
You wanted an autopsy. You said, I want an autopsy for my daughter.
That's correct, yes. And they was like, this is a disgrace. You want them to cut your daughter and cut the body and all this? I was like, she's not dead. If I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna die. I'll be the next one dying. I said, I have to do this. I said, because it's going to be in my mind forever. Rape was the last thing. I would never think someone would rape a 5-year-old. It was not even in my mind. You understand? It was not in my mind. So then I told them, you guys need to take the cop to the morgue. I said, y'all take the body to the morgue, but nobody gonna bury my daughter. That's period. Forget about it. So, I wasn't too sure. I said they probably would do it anyway. So I sent an email to the American Embassy in Freetown. The American Embassy responded. I sent an email. So when I was sending the email, I screenshot the email and sent it to them in Africa. So American Embassy get the email, so they reply me the next day, and then the consulate called me. I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what my daughter died from. She in Africa, they get ready to bury my daughter. What can I do? And she advised me, tell me to call the police and file a police report. I said, I'm way over here. The people that I know that's going to do it for me, they against me. So what can I do? And call a friend of mine, a boy that's, worked for me. And I said, please just go to the police station and take some money with you and go file a police report. Meet anybody, tell them, I want to talk to them. So they went to the police station and filed a police report. And the guy that was the head of the police department, unfortunately, he was my best friend. I was like, oh, man, thanks God. They do all the paperwork, and I was able to stop them on the burial.
And so you were able to stop them from the burial, and then you were able to get your wish and get this autopsy. Now tell me about that and what you learned of what had happened to Kadijah?
If they should have asked me, if God should have asked me, say, you're gonna have a beautiful daughter, smart, but she's gonna die this way, I would tell God, don't give me a daughter. If you're gonna give me a son that's gonna live, please give me a son. Don't give me a daughter that's gonna punish and die this way. I would tell God not to give me a daughter that will punish. Why she have to die? Because because of her gender. She don't have to die for her gender. She don't have to die because she was born a girl, child. That's why she died. She don't die for no reason, for good reason, because of her sexuality. That's why she died. It was a shocking news when they called me. She was raped and murdered.
And Mr. Saccoh, Congolese, when you learned that she had been assaulted and murdered, did you have any suspicions as to who it might be, who might be responsible?
Nope. It's just surprising. The little child, fearful.
And what did her aunt, the guardian, say to you when they received the news? Did they provide any insight into how this happened or who was responsible? What did your wife's sister, Kadijah's aunt, who was responsible for caring for her, what did she say once the autopsy result came in?
No, she's not my wife. She's my daughter, mother. And to be honest with you, I did not talk to anybody. I did not talk to nobody. It was just surprising. And I was like, what can I do? Can I go crazy social media? Maybe somebody would hear me. Can I do social media, Facebook and all those social media, WhatsApp, and see if somebody gonna hear my voice? I was crazy on Facebook. Keep posting different pictures. Just keep posting stuff. Just keep posting. And
there's someone in custody. How did that person come to be the individual that was held and basically is now the suspect for Kadijah's rape and murder? This is a family member, as I understand it. This is her cousin. He's the alleged rapist here. He's in custody. How was he identified?
Right now, the investigation is going on and due process. And I don't want to talk about that too much. And I don't have, detail. All I need is justice for my daughter. And I know if I cry in the United States, she's a United States citizen. Maybe somebody will hear me, hear my voice, my cry. If I cry, it's Kadijah crying.
Her 8-year-old sister, what did Isha Sesay say?
I called her, I was crying. She was like, Daddy, don't cry. You don't have to cry. Don't cry, Daddy. That's what she was telling me. Stop crying. Stop crying.
What's been the response of the police? You say there's an investigation ongoing. How is that proceeding? Are you satisfied with the way it's proceeding?
I'm kind of satisfied, and I spoke to different people, and how are we gonna get justice? One, we have to have a physical evidence of the crime committed. How are we gonna prove it in Freetown? Technology, we don't have good labs to do testing, forensic experts to determine, we need help. Kadijah needed justice. We need help. We want to make sure whoever did the crime, Kadijah get justice for them. Whoever strangled the little girl, Kadijah need justice for that. She was strangled. She was strangled. She was strangled. She need justice. She crying. She need justice. Autopsy is not enough. We need experts. We need people to go help this little girl. If we got help for this little girl, I believe most of the perpetrators out there, child molesters, they will be scared. They know that if you put your hands on another girl, Kadijah's spirits will come get you. We need help. We need experts, forensic experts. The body's still there.
The body's still being held?
Yes.
Still in the mortuary?
Yes.
Obviously, as you'd already explained, not everyone in the family was supportive of your desire for an autopsy. Have you spoken to Kadijah's mother?
No, I did not. I spoke to her mother, and I called her, and she was crying. I said, thank you. This is what happened. And I hang up the phone.
Do you have faith in the legal system in Sierra Leone that in the absence of a forensic expert that you will get justice?
I have faith, and it's the process that I don't have faith in. The process, And the reason why I said the process, we're not equipped to do further investigation, forensic experts. So it's going to be very, very difficult for us, for Kadijah to have justice. And if Kadijah don't have justice, it's going to get worse. It's getting younger. They're killing younger girls. Younger, very young. If we take their body, we bury their body right now. That's it. It's done. But I spoke to the president's wife, the first lady. She assured me. She said the president is doing his best to make sure Kadijah gets justice. It's the process.
What does it say about our country that children are getting younger and younger and are being assaulted? What does it say to you about the state of our country?
The chances of a girl child to survive rape in Sierra Leone it's very low for you to survive a girl child in Sierra Leone. If I can if I can be all the way in the United States, they call me, my daughter is dead. They said they want to go bury my daughter. And I said, no, go do DNA. Straight up. I found rape crime. I found 1 rape crime, 2 rape crime. Just me, right here, because I made a decision. So how many people there in Freetown, they can say, you know what? I'm going to take my daughter to the hospital so they can check if someone had already molested her. If we do that, the statistics going to be crazy. See how many girls been molested.
Why is this happening? Have you thought as to what there is no sane explanation, but how did we get here?
One, the drug use is too high in the country. People are using all type of drugs, all sorts of drugs, you know, and when people get like that, they turn to animals.
You chose to speak out, and you're speaking to me and sharing your story with people around the world. And it's important for our viewers to understand that that is not what normally happens in Sierra Leone. Children, teenagers, women are assaulted, and the norm is that families keep the secrets and do not speak out because of shame. You are speaking out. Tell us why.
We need to come up with a better policy to protect young girls. I think if we get harder on the charges when you tamper with an innocent child, and we have forensic experts in Freetown, we got a lab that can process criminals who commit horrific crime to kids. Will reduce rape. I think it's going to get. This president said he would do it. It stops with Kadijah. He would do it.
So you're speaking out to be the spark for change.
That's correct. Yes, Kadijah is the spark for change. That's why our body's still there. We should have they called me to go bury her. I said, no. We need the process to work. If the defendants want to challenge the autopsy, I think she's still there. They can get an expert and get their own opinion. But Kadijah definitely needs change. I want to tell the woman out there, Kadijah gonna have help for you guys. Kadijah gonna have help. Don't hide it. Come out. Speak out. Kadijah gonna help you.
People from around the world have been responding to the videos I have posted about Kadijah, and everyone is asking me, how can they help? What's your response? How can people help?
What we're looking for right now, if we can have an expert, a forensic expert, who can go to Freetown and do a thorough investigation so we can make sure we convict the person that commits this horrible, horrible crime on this innocent angel.
People are seeing the pictures of your beautiful baby, and they are shocked and heartbroken for you and the heinous crime that took her life. But I don't want people to remember. I don't want people I don't want the thoughts of how she died to crowd out who she was. So tell us how we should remember Kadijah, the beautiful little girl that you love so much. How do you want her to be remembered?
Kadijah is a symbol of rape victim in Sierra Leone. She died for a reason. She have all the opportunity to come to the United States. For all the little girls that have been raped, they need Kadijah. They stop Kadijah from not coming to the United States. They want Kadijah to deliver the message to the perpetrators. Stop it. If you don't stop it, we're gonna get you. And we will fight. We will cry. Maybe somebody with a God, with a heart of an angel, gonna come up there, said, I will come help the people of Sierra Leone and save the girl child under the name of Kadijah. She deserves it. She died for a reason. She died for a reason. The reason why I say that, Aisha, you know about Sierra Leone more. You know, it's your second home. For somebody to miss an opportunity to come to the United States, it's very rare. What's the population in Freetown is let me say 7 million. 7 million to 1. You understand? The one, that's Kadijah. Everybody want to come here. The one, that's Kadijah. You can walk up the street in Freetown and you tell somebody, oh, give me your baby. I'm going to take her to America. They don't even know you. They give it to you. Well, Kadijah have to go through all this obstacle just to
be a spark for change.
Help the other girls that been murdered by rapists and family members have been holding back when their child been raped and murdered. They sit there. Oh my goodness. I don't know how people can sit there. Somebody come home, you raped my girl, my daughter, and other family member. All right, let's talk this and finish. She already dead. She's a child. She's going to go to heaven, and let's forget about it. Don't worry about it. And go put that girl, go bury the girl. I hope if we can have a foundation for Kadijah, where people can come and remember a name, said, this is Kadijah. This is the beautiful, smart girl that have all the opportunity, have to die like the way George Floyd died. George Floyd died, he was suffocated. Kadijah died, she was suffocated. And the difference between Kadijah and George Floyd, Kadijah is a baby. It's a baby. And she died because of her gender.
Do you have a favorite memory of hers?
When I last saw her, when I was over there, he came up to me. He said, Daddy, he said, they told me something. I said, what? He said, America is too cold. I'm not going there. It's very, very cold. I'm scared. They said, if I go there, I will be freezing. I said, no. I said, you're going to have a good time. I said, everything. He said, no. He said, and then when I go there, I'm going to be fat. I'm going to get big. I was like, I said, I don't know. I said, if you watch what you eat, you're not going to get big. I said, all right. I said, well, one day, you'll be there. You'll get there. I said, it takes time.
And she wanted to be a doctor.
And that was our dream. That was our dream. And I asked her, I said, if you be a doctor, what kind of doctor you going to be? Well, I'm going to help people to have baby. I said, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be delivering babies. She was like, yep, that's what I want to do. She's smart. She's very, very smart. Everything about her is special. And everything about her is a symbol. When the nation was going through horrible time of Ebola, and the last day of Ebola, that's when she was born. And she died on my birthday. All the days All the years she chose my birthday, June 17th. I would never. I feel so good. Kadijah gonna make a difference. I hope she made a difference in the world. I hope she do. I hope people come out and cry for the other children that have been murdered the same way Kadijah been murdered. Kadijah was suffocated and break her neck. They break Kadijah's neck and suffocate her. May her soul rest in peace. And all the other children that have been going through the same thing, may their soul rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope Kadijah's symbol of love kids continue to ring bell in the villages of Freetown and help save the kids. They don't have no protection in their parents' house. This is their own parent house. They don't have no protection. But Kadijah, by the grace of God, help will come. There's some guardian angel out there. It's going to be a guardian angel out there that would say, your gender is very important as a female, a girl child. We have to stand up and do something in Africa.
Wow.
The girl child are crying, and they cry. Kadijah have to give up her life.
Mrs. Saccoh, it's such an unbelievable tragedy, and we are praying for you and the entire family, and we will continue to say Kadijah's name and to push for answers and to ensure that she's not forgotten.
Please.
I just want you to know that, and I want to say thank you for joining us at this very painful time to share your memories of your daughter and to tell us what happened to her. We are grateful for you, and we'll make sure we will do our part to shine a light on this and ensure that people are brought to justice.
Thank you very much, and you have a good night.
The father of little Kadijah Saccoh speaking to me a couple of hours ago. A couple of things that I want to make clear. We have reached out to Kadijah's mother, who is in England. We have extended an invitation to her to join us on the show and to tell us about her child and this horrific tragedy that has befallen their family. We want to hear her words in this moment. We are working on that. We have made contact. I want to make that clear. That was Kadijah's father. We have reached out to Kadijah's mother, and we hope that she will join us on the show. Well, our hope is that she will join us tomorrow. But the question of Kadijah's father speaking out right now, a question of the timing of this interview. There's a comment I saw that, when is the appropriate time to speak, if not now, when the world is paying attention? If you don't speak now, so everybody understands the scale of your loss and the need for change, when do you speak? Sierra Leone is shrouded in a culture of silence in the face of these crimes. And in the midst of his tragedy, of his grief, he's choosing to speak out. And I thank him for choosing this show to be one of the places where he makes his call for reform and justice for his child. thank you to all of you who are watching, who've been posting your comments. A lot of comments expressing your sadness and your extending your condolences to the Saccoh family, which of course we will pass on to them. So thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit more about the situation on the ground in Sierra Leone, this rape culture. I want to talk about how these cases are investigated, prosecutions, convictions. At the top of the show, we played that clip from the president as he declared an emergency on rape and violence against women and girls. That was in 2019. And we want to give you some context to the scale of this disease. According to the UN's global database on violence against women, there were 3,252 sexual penetrations recorded in 2019. That's an increase over the previous 2 years, which recorded over 2,700 incidents in 2018 and over 2,500 incidents in 2017. Let me be very clear. I'm going to go slowly so you can take in the numbers here. 2019, there were 3,252 sexual penetrations, acts of sexual violence recorded. It's an increase over the 2 previous years, which recorded over 2,700 incidents in 2018 and over 2,500 incidents in 2017. To be clear, these are reported. This is all we know that have been reported. Safe to say it's probably way higher than that, but these are the people that have come out and it is recorded. 3,252 in 2019. 2019 also saw a tremendous increase nationwide in the number of crimes committed. That's up from 22% from 2018. It's all of this that prompted the president to make that statement in 2019. Take a listen once more to what he said.
Our actions on child marriage, rape, and sexual and gender-based violence have been emphatic and uncompromising. We have passed progressive laws on sexual offenses, and a presidential task force directly advises the president on sexual and gender-based violence in Sierra Leone.
The president there, Julius Maada Bio, speaking at the United Nations in New York last year, 2019, speaking further on the pervasive uptick culture of violence against women and girls. I want to talk more about this with somebody who has been working in this space for a very, very long time. He's there in Sierra Leone and he's been amplifying the voices of women and girls for many, many years. He's the co-founder and executive director of Purposeful Productions. Cherno Barr joins me now from Freetown. Cherno, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aisha. It's a real pleasure to be here.
It's such awful circumstances. You heard a lot of the interview that I did with little Kadijah's father, and the one thing that he said that continues to ring in my ears is, "My child died because of her gender." Can you just respond to that with all you know about the culture in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, those were really powerful words, and very stirring words, and unfortunately, they reflect the reality. They're not a hyperbole. It's the reality. The bodies of girls and women in Sierra Leone are constantly under attack, are constantly subject to brutal forms of violence, sexual violence, domestic violence, and other forms of violence, and the state has done very little to protect them. It's deeply ingrained in our culture. I was looking at a report, and Sierra Leone features among the countries with the highest male preference. So just at birth, the average Sierra Leonean family prefers boys. And you will think that that's not important, but that is the beginning, it's the baseline of this very deeply entrenched culture of violence against women and girls. So when a girl is born, starts with, if you're in a polygamous home, you have not done well for your husband because you had a girl. And that's going to affect you in many ways. It affects you in terms of access to wealth, access to property. And if you're a girl, immediately you are objectified, you're sexualized. The first people that come through your house think, oh, this is for me, fine woman for married, which means, reducing you essentially to your sexuality. And that culture continues through every single step of your life, through people from your home. And as we've seen in this case, allegations of incest, to what happens in the school, in the church, in the community. The average Sierra Leonean female is unsafe. The society we have created, and this is not an accident, it's not because they are just female, it's because we have created a society through our culture, through our customs, through the imagery that we share. Think about this. About 1 in 2 girls in this country still are married by the age 18. That's part of the culture of rape. 80% of girls, by the latest data from the government of Sierra Leone, are cut, female genital cutting in this country. 80% of women and girls. That's an incredibly high number. So if you want to talk about the culture of rape, you talk about this culture of constant invasion of the female body, of constantly somebody trying to take something away from you. And it exhibits itself in the most vile form when it happens to a girl who is 5 years old, whose life, whose future, whose destiny is stolen from her. But I like to tell people that this is part of the systemic culture that we have all built, and that we consciously or unconsciously continue to feed into.
And so when you lay it out so starkly, the culture that exists and how women and girls are being victimized, brutalized on such shocking levels, the immediate question says, well, what is the state doing? What are the authorities doing to counter, to push back and protect women and girls? So clearly there's a problem. The president declared a national emergency on it. Let me just start right there. With that declaration, we've had over a year to take that in. What changed?
That's a great question, Aisha. And I really love that you opened this segment with the words of the president at the United Nations. One thing you have to give this president credit for, and I got myself into some trouble because I overpraised him for even that declaration. I said for the first time in our country, we have the states acknowledging what some of us have been saying for many years, that this is an emergency. It's not normal for every single girl growing up in this country to have had to deal with all this culture of violence, of people trying to take away their body and the impunity that comes with it. By the way, the impunity, the sheer impunity, the numbers you just talked about in the beginning, we get only about 3% of those numbers end up making it to court and getting a guilty verdict. That means if it's a scorecard, the government gets 97% failure. So 97% of girls and women who are sexually violated basically do not expect to get justice in this country. And that fits into this culture of violence. Mm-hmm. But take the president. He was the first person, and he deserves credit for that, to use the bully pulpit of the state to say, I agree, we have a problem. We have a state of emergency. But, and this is the big problem, with every state of emergency declaration, there needs to be some significant action. When the president declared, he called for and announced certain major things. One, he said there will be big reforms in the police force. He announced a new specific police unit that will focus on sexual crimes. And he said they will increase investment in the existing family support units. He said that they will provide a forensic lab to make sure that the kinds of things that my brother was just talking about, Mr. Saccoh just now, will not continue to be the case, that so many rapists walk free in this country because we can't prove, and it's so hard to prove in court. And the state still does not have those equipments. The president said he will provide it. He promised as well free healthcare for all rape victims across this country. He promised a survivors fund. He promised at the UN, we just heard, that he will convene a presidential task force to investigate, to look at the reasons for this culture of violence in this country, and to come up with more radical recommendations for the way forward. Aisha, I'm very sad to say not a single one of those things I just said has happened 1 year on. Not one. And I think that makes me very sad because I was one of the people who went over the moon in applauding the president for his declaration. But he just declared Corona a national emergency. When they declared COVID-19 an emergency, they set up an emergency operation center. They put state resources to it. They hired the best people in the country. They bought cars and things like that. And they have a national plan. When they declared Ebola an emergency, they did the same thing. But they declared rape an emergency, and they basically hardly lifted a finger. And I think it's time for us all who care about this issue to call the president out, to call the leadership of this country out and say, no, you have not done what you have said you will do for the women of this country, for the girls of this country. And this is what is feeding into this culture of impunity and perpetuating this culture of violence. We need to see radical and drastic changes, and now.
You have said that as we call for justice for Kadijah, that's only half of it. It has to be about reform. So
Absolutely.
when you look at reform, a number of points you laid out that were going with the president's own declaration meant to usher in change. They haven't happened, as you have detailed. Reform. What does meaningful reform look like? What is true justice for Kadijah? What should that look like?
I'm so happy you're asking that question because over the past week, there's been an outpour of activists on the streets of Freetown. So many people are out there, young people, men and women, jumping in the streets and calling for justice for Kadijah. And those of us who have been doing this for a long time are saying to them, even if we place the accused for Kadijah at the National Stadium and shoot him to death, which some people want. They want him shot. They want an example. Now I'm saying we need, and I share the outrage and I share the call for justice for him, but there's so many other Kadijahs we don't know about. And the way we get justice for not just Kadijah, and as her father was saying, she hopes that Kadijah will become a change, is to change both the culture and the system that produces men like the people who have done this to Kadijah, and ensure that these people do not walk away free. So to make sure that just the basic. Today, Aisha, on national radio and television, the chief of the police that's investigating this case was announcing the name of Kadijah's sibling and announcing their address. They don't even have the basic protocol of how to deal with cases like this. Their own laws, their own books say it's a crime to announce the name of survivors or victims publicly. And yet they continue to do that. They need to train the police. They need to invest in the police. They need to make sure that the special units they said they're going to form, they form. So people have to believe in justice. There has to be a stability that if I go to the police, they're going to take me seriously. They're going to investigate my case dispassionately, and I'm going to get justice. The court system in the country, up till now, we do not have basic courts across this country that will guarantee justice for people who show up. So if you are a girl in Kamakwe, for example, and you go there, they will want you to show up to get your case heard. You'll have to go to the district headquarters town, which is a massive problem. So that also needs to change. So we need to see presidential level coordination. The president at the UN, he said he is going to set up a task force. He needs to put together a team to conduct a systematic study, to come up with a national level plan, and to put the resources behind that plan to fund it. Until and unless we begin to see those kinds of things, it will still be lip service.
You're talking about the machinery of the state and the things that the state can do, things the state needs to do, the family support unit, the courts, the training for the police. Talk to me about the culture. How do we change culture?
Yeah, that's a more long-term work. But it starts with setting the example at the top. One way you change culture of rape is making sure there's no impunity. People need to see. In Sierra Leone, a famous parable is kill dog before dog, let dog know say die day. When for people who don't understand Creole, it basically means you have to kill a dog in front of a dog so that the dogs know that there's death.
Mm-hmm.
People get away with rape too often. We have a very sexualized culture. Sexual harassment is the norm. Girls and women, their bodies are reduced to sexual objects. And unfortunately, the perpetrators of these people in high places, in governments, in schools, in hospitals, everywhere in the country. One way you change the rape culture is to make sure that you have a system where, I always say to people who are calling for the death penalty and castration, it is not the severity of the punishments that changes culture. It's the certainty of the punishment. Knowing that anytime you do it, you're actually going to get caught and you're going to get punished. Every single time there's justice. That's one. Two, it's the way we teach our kids. The schools are such a powerful tool of socialization. And in our school system, still, we don't even have sex education. We treat sex as if it's this forever taboo, while we live in the paradox of a very highly sexualized society. Women and girls' bodies, as I said, are invaded often, and their teachers treat them as if, they're not worth much. And we hardly have female teachers even in the school system. We need to drastically change that. We need to create incentives for more female teachers. There's a lot of evidence that shows that if girls have female mentors like you they can look up to, they will have better outcomes in life and they can demand better for themselves in their own lives. We need to reintroduce comprehensive sex education in our school system to make sure that we talk about sex based on science, not just based on religion. We over-religious. We use religion when it comes to questions of sexuality, but obviously our conduct is not matched because we will not have such a pervasive sex culture if indeed we're as religious as we say. So we need to treat this openly and frankly and make sure we're teaching kids about their body, about making sure what is good touch, what is bad touch, talking to them about menstruation, talking to them about enthusiastic consent, how to say no, how to speak up when somebody, and we need to believe them. One way you change the rape culture is to end this victim blaming and this victim shaming culture. We still have too much of slut shaming. The only reason some people are out there campaigning is because it's a 5-year-old. If it was a 20-year-old woman right now, they will say, where's CBWell? Who's close CBWell? What is she doing in the room?
Yeah, where was she? Why was she out at that time?
Why was she there? Maybe she wanted it. That is all part of the rape culture. We need to understand that the only person responsible for rape is the rapist. And that's it. Nobody else is responsible. And even in this case, some people want to blame parents, want to blame this. No, it's the rapist. Yes, society has a role to play, but it's the rapist. And that rapist needs to be held to account. There's also negligence. And then we as a society need to change our attitude, our valuation of the female body, and also the way we treat and talk to our boys. There's too much of toxic masculinity. Boys, the average Sierra Leonean boy grows up and, if he talks about sex and again, some boys themselves are victims of sexual violence, but, at a young age, they are sexualized, all their cousins have sex with them, but it's okayed in society. And boys talk about it as if it's fine. And those boys who have a very highly sexualized childhood become the rapists as well as they grow up. So how we treat our boys, how we talk to our boys. I have 2 boys. And my boys, we constantly talk about sex. We talk about sexuality. They know about the parts of their body. And of course, they will never talk about a female in any way that's objectifying. And they see, of course, in their mom, a very, very strong and powerful woman. So we need to change all of those things. So at every level of society, but I think at the core of it, Aisha, is we need to end this culture of impunity. The most powerful weapon is to show, don't tell, is to show everybody that every time you do it, you're going to get punished. Because as a society, and that's how we show our values, we demonstrate our values by the things we say no to and the things we deny. And one thing we have to resolve that we deny absolutely in all shape and form is any and every act of sexual violence and sexual abuse and sexual exploitation. That's how we change the culture.
I mean, you just laid it out there so perfectly. Let me just ask you, if I let you go, in terms of next steps. You have talked openly about this need to stand with survivors, to provide them with the support that they need, that is long overdue. Tell me about your next steps.
Thank you so much for that. And I have to say, when everything of this was happening, we listened to a lot of people calling, and we've received a lot of calls from amazing, outstanding businesses and individuals. And I'm very proud, not only because I'm here, but to say you have been one of the people championing this and talking about it and guiding us and saying, guys, how do we mobilize this energy to stand with survivors? It's too many girls and women in our society are survivors who don't come out. And the organizations who are at the front, the front line providing support to them, psychological support, medical support, they do not receive the support that they themselves need. They are short of funds. So tonight, with the chairpersonship of yourself, Aisha, and other outstanding Sierra Leoneans, we're announcing a Survivors Solidarity Fund. And it's going to be housed at Purposeful, but it is a Survivors Solidarity Fund that will provide much needed resources for Rainbow Initiative, which is the primary organization that's providing care for survivors of sexual violence across our country, Abadi Women's Center, which is one other institution that provides excellent care for rape survivors in the country, and Lawyers, which is the one that provides, it's an organization of female lawyers that provides supports, legal supports, free pro bono supports for folks who are victims and survivors of sexual violence, and another small organization called Smart Women's Initiative. So tonight we're announcing this Survivors Solidarity Fund, and we're inviting Sierra Leoneans all over. We'll publish the link in the comment section, and I know you, Aisha, you're going to be championing this with us. We're going to invite Sierra Leoneans all over the world to please contribute, and 100% of these resources will go to these 4 organizations and organizations like them. Purposeful will cover every single one of the overheads, and we'll match some of the donations that you're going to make. And we invite you to all, let's put our resources together. Let's stand with the survivors, and let's show that, you know, our money too can make a difference, and we can demonstrate our anger and our action in this fight by being with the people who are doing this work on a daily basis. And it's a very thankless work often. So I want to thank you, Aisha, for actually leading us with this initiative, for coming with the ideas, for helping us to mobilize it, and for providing the platform for us to announce it tonight.
I mean, honestly, it's my honor to be able to link hands with you and all those who are working in the space to amplify your efforts, which you do day in and day out, to help survivors and to fight for change. And I'm just doing my own small part by joining and amplifying and doing everything I can to bring resources to bear to support survivors in this moment, and to be part of the conversation that leads to change of the culture. Chanabar, you have been doing this work for many years. I've known you for many years. Thank you for standing tall and for leading. And yes, we will share more about the Survivor Solidarity Fund in the days ahead. And I look forward to working with you on it. Thank you, Cherno.
Thank you so much, Aisha.
Stay safe. We will be posting, Cherno, myself, and the whole coalition of supporters, stakeholders about this fund, and asking for people to support, to spread the word. We have to get the support to survivors that they need. So more details on that ahead in days to come. I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for being part of the conversation. Thank you so much for giving up so much of your time. This was not an easy show for us to do. It was a very painful show for each and every team member. All of us have been deeply, deeply impacted by what happened to little Kadijah, but also, as Cherno makes a point, what is happening to women and girls in Sierra Leone every single day. And as a Sierra Leonean, it has to stop. The rape culture must be dismantled. We must have a system where there is a forensic lab, there are cases brought to court speedily, there is a victim-centered approach to treating these cases, and that there is prosecution all the time. It is time. It is past time. And I hope that all of us will join hands and will stand up in this moment, because if you're not standing up, then you're standing by and you're watching this happen. So I want to say thank you for joining us here at home with Isha Sesay. Please join us again tomorrow. We're going to be looking at this issue, also what's happening in Sierra Leone, but also what's happening in other African countries. We're seeing these cases in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa. We're seeing it in other places. We're going to be taking a broader lens as to why we're seeing this culture of violence against women and girls on the continent, and how we dismantle the rape culture. That's it for today. I want to leave you with images of little Kadijah. She is the spark for change. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.
Well, for the scheme, making the sardine and for him, stand really standing, as Sharayon, and just Lord, I was my pleasure, loyalty, my country, Sharayon. I faith in you at all times. I promise to Father, hunger name on the cross for our unity on the cross everything. I put sight our heart so every God. Kadijah Saccoh, take care, Dija.